It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech. Oh, we got a good show. Robert Scoble and Mathew Ingram are here to talk about the Google, some interesting stories there, the Apple, and Facebook, too. It's our last episode of 2012. Join us, won't you, for TWiT.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Audio bandwidth for This Week in Tech is provided by the new Winamp for Android, featuring wireless sync and one-click iTunes import. Now with free daily music downloads and full-length CD listening parties. Download it for free at winamp.com/Android. Video bandwidth for TWiT is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. This is TWiT, This Week in Tech, episode 384, recorded December 16th, 2012. Screw the arrows, I need more wood. This Week in Tech is brought to you by Stamps.com. Use Stamps.com to buy and print real U.S. postage the instant you need it right from your desk. For our special offer, visit Stamps.com, click on the microphone, and enter TWiT. And by GoToMeeting with HD Faces from Citrix, the powerfully simple way to meet and collaborate with colleagues and clients anywhere. You could share the same screen and see each other face-to-face with HD video conferencing, even from an iPad. Sign up for your 30-day free trial today. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click the Try It Free button, and use the promo code TWiT. And by Carbonite Online Backup. Automatic, continual, unlimited backup for your computer files, just $59 a year. Try it free at Carbonite.com and use the offer code TWiT to get 2 bonus months with purchase. And by Audible.com. Sign up for the Platinum Plan and get 2 free books. Go to audible.com/TWiT2. And don't forget to get a copy of Brandon Sanderson's Legion absolutely free at audible.com/Sanderson. It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech, our last episode of 2013, our last news episode, anyway, of 2012. This would be funny if it were the last episode of 2013. We'd be traveling in the future. Do you think the Mayan apocalypse is going to happen? Question 1 for our panel. Mathew Ingram is here from GigaOM. Great to have you, Mathew. Thank you for joining us from beautiful Canada, where I bet it's freezing cold.
It's actually pretty warm. It's in the 50s.
What? It's colder here. It's like in the 40s.
Yeah.
You should come down here.
It's a warm spell.
You should be a snowbird. Come down here. Or no, I should go there.
Would like to.
Yeah. Anytime.
I want to see the cottage.
You should. Cottage is grown a little bit. It's bigger than a cottage. Smaller than a bread box. Also here, Robert Scoble from his home in beautiful northern central California.
Half Moon Bay, baby. Where it's
HMB.
Cloudy today.
It is cloudy. Nice to have you both.
Thank you.
We were talking before the show began, actually, about Google and about Apple. I guess, Robert, is this a new book you're doing with Shell?
Yeah, with Shell Israel. It's called The Age of Context. And I noticed 5 trends this year that the number of sensors we're seeing or wearing is going up exponentially.
Just with the cell phone alone, my God, the cell phone knows all.
7 sensors in the cell phone, 9 in the newer ones, like barometer got added, right?
Yeah, we got a barometer in our Galaxy S3. What the hell's that for?
So you can tell elevation and you can tell weather patterns.
But elevation.
Well, you're going to, I went to Oakley a week ago and met with a team that builds these new Airwave goggles that has a heads-up display in them. And they could tell how many vertical feet you're skiing. They're for skiers.
That makes sense.
Vertical feet?
A skier needs to know elevation. I don't know if I need to know elevation.
If you jump out of a plane, you need to know elevation.
Well, of course. You need elevation.
It's for when you go wingsuit flying, Leo.
Yeah. I want a squirrel suit.
You need to know that.
I need that. So you got accelerometer, you got barometer, you got GPS.
Yeah.
This is good. They used to ask, name all 7 dwarves. Now it's name all 7 sensors. What?
Yep.
Accelerometer,
the microphone
barometer
is one.
Microphone,
camera, GPS, compass.
We're missing
gyroscope.
One. Gyroscope. Is that an accelerometer?
It's different than accelerometer. Gyroscope can tell twisting motion. Accelerometer can tell that you stopped or started or are moving.
Is there any? Well, I think that's enough.
Some have a temperature sensor. Some have a barometer.
So we got as many as 8.
Yeah.
And yet there's been no application that uses all 8.
Not yet, but I just interviewed the CEO of Basis, and they're making a watch that has several more. They're looking at your perspiration.
I'd like to know that heart rate, perspiration, blood pressure, salinity.
And they're doing a health monitor so they can tell, are you being active enough and stuff like that. Who else? Nike Fuel Band has 2 or 3 sensors, or 1 or 2 sensors in it. The Fitbit has 1 or 2 sensors in it.
Those are the Motion X sensors from
my Nest thermostat has a sensor in it, right? Yeah. And on and on. So
the Nest not only senses temperature, the Nest senses movement, because when you walk by it, it wakes up and says hello.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. I love that Nest. But you know what? It's funny, we're buying into this, and yet we're so concerned about privacy.
Oh, yeah, I'm not.
Well, obviously. nor am I really.
I've decided to live my life in public. I mean, I'm on TWiT. If I cared about privacy, I wouldn't be on the show.
Yeah, I'm sort of in that camp, too. If someone wants to know my elevation, that's fine.
Well, we're going to trade our privacy for utility. So, Google Now is a good example of this, right? The more you tell Google Now, the more you let it study you, the more it can serve you and tell you, hey, you better leave for the next appointment you have. And, here's a concert you might want to go to, or here's your plane tickets, stuff like that. And that's going to be a huge trend. So, wearable computer sensors, these new databases that are huge new databases, are coming along that feed off of social networks and feed off of location or mapping information.
We had Jonathan Schwartz, the former CEO of Sun, on talking about privacy. He's actually a very interesting guy, very interested in privacy. And we've actually talked to a number of people, and I think the consensus is, of course, you're right. The three of us, because we're kind of in the public eye, we kind of accept this lack of privacy. But that the trade-off needs to be explicit, right, Matthew?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think regardless of whether it's an app or a service or a social network, they have to tell you what you're getting in exchange, what you're giving up and what you're getting in exchange, I think.
And it should be consistent, and should be you should know where your information is going to go. I mean, it's one thing to give it to a service like Gmail. It's another thing for it to leave Gmail and do something. With a third party, for instance, I should be aware of where it goes.
Jonathan, there's a blog post actually on his current Jonathan Schwartz blog, jonathanischwartz.wordpress.com. He says it's time to take responsibility for our data and reject the increasingly confusing array of privacy waivers designed to strip our control or rights. He says, I don't blame the social media companies. They're behaving rationally. After all, companies don't have ethics. People do. They're just maximizing for profit. That's what they do. We, the users, are the ones behaving irrationally by trusting media companies and advertisers to act in our best interest. That's not their mission statement. It's ours. Privacy is a right, not a privilege. And he bolds this, unless I give you explicit permission to gather, distribute, or use my family's information. That's the context this blog post is in, but you could just say information. You're forbidden to do so. That's the privacy policy I want.
The problem is, so let's take a scenario like, let's say we went skiing to Heavenly Valley, and let's say you're on the California side and I'm on the Nevada side. And let's say we both had heads-up displays, whether they're Google or Oakley or whatnot. I only want to see messages about what I'm doing, which is skiing. I don't want to see any tweets. Right now on my screen, I have a new tweet coming in every half a second. Yeah. I don't want to see that while I'm skiing. So I needed systems to filter out or only show me important stuff. So
I would submit that the reason you go skiing is so that you don't see any crap except the slope, the trees, and enjoying nature.
That's not true. If you're over on the other side of the hill and you find a trackless bowl and you want to invite me over, I want to see that message, right? If you want to invite me to lunch, I want to see that message. If the place we're going to lunch has open table computer, I might even want to reserve a table for us.
But it should be pull, not push, shouldn't it?
Well, I think in these new glasses, it's going to be push. It's going to be,
and that's probably a little annoying.
No, I think
it be I'm going over there. I want to know what the reservation system is, not just.
I think you need.
Go ahead, Matthew.
I think there should be criteria. I mean, I think you should be able to choose. It should be a lot easier to say, I want this information and not that information, and I want you to use this but not that. I just think it should be a lot more overt, instead of you having to comb through settings and whatnot to figure out what they're doing with your data.
Google Now, somebody said Google Now is push. It's actually an interesting mix because I don't see Google Now unless I activate it. But then once I'm in there, it's pushing whatever it thinks is apropos based on algorithms it uses. So I don't see it on the front page, but if I tap the Google bar, then I get the Google Now cards. So it's a mixture of push and pull. It's opt-in, I guess.
You also see some in the notifications.
Right? Yeah, but you can control that. I turn off notifications, I think, on that.
Is it on all the time?
It's always doing something, but I don't. Yes. So in other words, it's always downloading new cards because then they're there when I look, but I don't see them unless I explicitly say I want to see.
And keep in mind, we're only in the Apple 1 days of this stuff.
Well, and this is why it's good to wait. But that's why we need to weigh in now. We're in early days.
Yeah, but you're going to change your behavior to because of these things that are going to come along. I watched Gary Vaynerchuk give a talk this morning, and he asked the crowd, how many people said they would never join Facebook? And every hand went up. Okay, how many people are on Facebook? Every hand went up.
Yeah, we all hate it.
We change our behavior because there's new utility, and our friends force us to, and the world forces us to. We're in competition with each other for limited resources. Here's a good example. I was on a plane. We were on the tarmac. I kept my phone on because I'm sorry. I don't turn it off. And TWiT said, the plane is being canceled. You're going back to the gate. I was one of the first people to get another ticket out of town. There was 3 seats in the other plane. So we headed back to the gate. Then the pilot comes on and says, hey, we're canceling this flight. Sorry about that. TWiT helped me win the game of life that night. And that's what's going to happen with these glasses. If I'm wearing them, they're going to tell me things about what's going on. If we're heading toward a restaurant together, and there's only one table at that restaurant tonight, I'm going to win if I have these glasses on, if I can get to that open table API before you do.
I'm going to let Mathew talk.
Well,
I feel like Robert and I could easily dominate here, Mathew. And you're Canadian, which means you're nice. So just jump in.
Constitutionally required to be nice. I guess the idea of winning. Like I see what Robert is saying, that you get benefits from these services and that helps you in your life. I just wonder whether seeing it as a race in which people win makes you more likely to give up things. Maybe
that night we were in a race. There was 168 people on that plane. There was 3 seats out of town, and I won the race.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love TWiT.
There's people who say I don't consider the downside of technology in the chat room. By the way, that's true. There are always downsides to technology. When we were arguing about cars, when cars first came out, I'm sure there's people who said there's going to be tens of thousands of people who are going to die in these things a year, and that's true.
And they do. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a downside to technology. There's an upside. It serves us. There's a downside, and we're going to have to deal with the downside.
It's kind of ironic that Jonathan Schwartz was writing about privacy, and his co-founder, Scott McNeely, is the one who said, you have no privacy. So
privacy is dead. Get over it, said Scott. Yeah, I asked him about that. In fact, it's a good triangulation if you haven't seen it. We're talking about, we haven't even really started the show, and already we're talking about a lot of things, privacy and Google. Let's talk about, all right, first of all, we're going to talk about the fact that Twitter is now allowing you to download your tweets. That happened today. Already a Joy of Tech comic. Arg! I downloaded an archive of all my tweets from Twitter. Every one since I signed up. Reading them, I realized what a colossal waste of my time Twitter is. Add to that all the wasted time reading all of my waste of time tweets for the second time. Wow, that's really interesting. You should post that on Facebook. Nitrazak and Snaggy. Skewering it again. This is surprising. I thought Twitter would never let us have our tweets back.
I was kind of skeptical too. It's funny. I mentioned something on Twitter, that Dick Costello actually did what he promised, and he responded and said, "What do you mean? He actually did what he promised?" And I remember when he promised it, I was skeptical because I had talked to people at Twitter, and they were frankly kind of freaked out that he had made this promise, because I'm not sure they thought they'd be able to do it. So I'm surprised that they were actually able to pull it off. The other question is, does anybody actually want that? I mean, I think the comic brings up a good point, which is a lot of that stuff is just ephemera. You know, it's meaningless. It was meaningful maybe in a small way at the time, but you know, it's like saving all your conversations, your audio, like chatting with people in a bar. Do you really want to download audio of all that? Like, why?
Where can I get this? It's on my Twitter account, or is it everybody have it yet?
It's on your settings page at the bottom. It will say tweet archive, I think, or download your tweets. I don't have it.
Okay.
I don't have it yet either.
Okay, so at some point we'll have a download all your tweets on here. But some people
part of me wants to look at it. I mean, part of me wants to take it into something like ThinkUp, which I use, and look at, you know, trends and patterns and that type of stuff. But a lot of that's sort of academic. I don't think there's anything really of huge value in there, you know, unless you're Andy Carvin and you're covering the Arab Spring.
The important, well, so here's how it's a change. In the past, you've only been able to go back, I think, 3,500 tweets. The point people made, which is a very legitimate point, is those are mine. I made them. They're mine. Why should Twitter be hiding them? So I think
that is a good point.
The value isn't. The value isn't in the tweets anyways. It's in the metadata around the tweets. Same thing with Instagram. The reason Instagram was $1 billion isn't because of your photos. It's because of all the information that happens around the photo.
We're going to talk about Instagram, actually, a little later on. Nick Bilton had an interesting article in today's Bits blog.
Yeah, I'm interviewing Kevin tomorrow afternoon, so that'll be interesting.
The CEO and founder of Instagram, was testifying at the California Corporations Department because they're trying to figure out if the selling of Instagram to Facebook for $1 billion was in the best interest of Instagram investors. It's $1 billion. How could it not be? Facebook requested the hearing. When asked if his company received any offers besides Facebook at the time, Systrom said, "No, we never received any offers." He said, "We talked to other parties but never received any formal offers." He was asked again. He repeated it. "We never received any formal offers or term sheets. No." Nevertheless, according to Nick Bilton in the New York Times, that's not true.
Well, and I've heard the same reports as Nick, I'm sure, about Twitter. I guess the big question is, what constitutes a formal offer?
Right.
And did Twitter ever present a term sheet?
Well, but Twitter was offering, according to this, $525 million in cash in Twitter shares.
Yeah.
That's less than $1 billion. Mm-hmm. So even if they had a formal offer, who cares? They took the big one.
Well, the argument that Nick was making was that if you open it up to an auction,
maybe you
would
have
have had a higher price. Right. The problem is a lot of like when Steve Jobs bought Siri, his first call was, if you call anybody else about my offer, the deal is off. And so you have to decide, do I risk that, in public? And, a lot of times we hear about deals that don't happen, and that, then everything blows up and then the deals go away,
We're going to take a break. Robert Scoble is here, the Scobleizer. He specializes in interviewing startups for Rackspace and has racked up a really amazing list of people he's talked to over the years. I want to ask you what your hot start. Don't say. We will later ask you what your hot startups are that you're interested in, because that's one of the reasons to follow Robert on Twitter and Facebook is just to see, who's excited about. You never know. Mathew Ingram is also here. He covers the scene for GigaOM, is one of the most, I think, insightful writers. What are you holding up there? Was it an app?
I'll tell you right away.
No, I know. That's why I said don't. I know you will. You can't. You have no. It's like, I knew as soon as I said that, you say, well, I'll tell you what it is. No, because I'm going to do, it's called a tease, Robert. I'm teasing the people. I'm trying to keep them from knowing what I'm up to. Don't give it all away yet, Robert. This is what I like about Robert. Robert wants to give it all away. Right?
Yeah.
He holds nothing. You know who gave it all away and is getting a lot? Oppo Gangnam Style. We'll talk about that in a second, too. Psy. Wait till you hear how much money the AP thinks Psy has made on that video. Unbelievable. But first, by the way, you like our Festivus poll? We're celebrating the holiday. The feats of strength and the airing of grievances later. First, a word from Stamps.com. Stamps is a great place to go instead of the post office this holiday season. I think of this as amateur hour at the post office because everybody with their Christmas card lists and they're all heading to the post office to get the stamps and everything, to mail the packages, and it's just slow. And you know, if you're doing mailing for a living, if you're doing fulfillment for Amazon or eBay or Etsy or whatever, if you're sending out invoices, marketing, whatever, if you're doing mailing for a living, you don't want to get in that line. You want to use Stamps.com. Stamps.com lets you print all you need. Do everything you need from your desk. Print postage from your computer and your printer. You don't need a special ink or a postage meter or anything. Just what you got. And you could print right on the envelope. So if you're, for instance, here's a good example. You're sending out a year-end invoices. You got it in the address book or your QuickBooks or whatever. You press one button, and the envelopes all come out with the postage, with the address, right from the address book, your company logo. It's beautiful. It's very professional. Boom, like that. In fact, if Stamps.com could come up with an envelope stuffing machine, we'd be done. If you're mailing packages, you get that USB scale. See right there? You plop the package on there. You get exactly the right postage, print the mailing label, and the mailman comes and gets it. Takes it away. Now, you may notice, we want you to try this. You may notice that $80 special value right on the front there. And that's a good deal. But if you click the microphone in the upper right-hand corner and you enter the offer code TWiT, TWiT, we're going to take that $80 value, turn it to a $110 bonus offer. You get the USB scale. You get $55 in free postage coupons you can use over a few months' time. You get a supplies kit, a 4-week trial. All that just because you used the word TWiT. How about that? You got to try Stamps.com. It's for professional mailing. Professionals. You get discounts you can't get at the post office. They do fill out the forms for international, all that stuff. Stamps.com. Google Maps for iOS. Whew, just in time for the holidays. And the general reviews are very nice. You guys are both iPhone users, right?
Mm-hmm.
You like it?
I'm.
What do you think, Matthew?
I think it's great. I mean, I think, you know, one of the reasons I was reluctant to upgrade to iOS 6 was I didn't want to give up Google Maps.
It's a downgrade when it comes to maps, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually waited some time, particularly the transit stuff.
Yeah.
I use a lot in San Francisco and New York, and I just didn't want to give up that ability or have to get 4 or 5 different apps to reproduce that ability. And the new ones are even better. There it is. Robert's holding it up. Is it the same as the Android version? Is there something different?
I think there's a little bit. The Google Latitude stuff isn't there.
Latitude's not. That's surprising.
Yeah.
There is a Latitude app. There used to be a Latitude in the Apple Maps, or was it a separate app? I think it was a separate app.
It's a separate app, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. I like Latitude. That's the one where you don't have to check in, like Foursquare, but you don't have to do anything. It just follows
I'm not
you
sure
around.
I'm not sure if Street View's there either. Let me look.
Oh, it must be.
Yeah, there's a few. There's a few more settings. Latitude, local,
Okay.
layers. I don't see layers in the iOS one.
You don't. I know
There
one
is
thing that's
two
not there. You can't pre-cache the maps, which you can do on Android. You can download the maps ahead of time if you're going to be offline. Which
There's
is
no
nice.
biking directions, apparently.
That's a missing feature.
Which is odd.
You can use OpenStreetMaps for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, it fixes a big problem, frankly, and thank you. We appreciate it. Google, keep up the good work. And
I've still
that
been
whole
using
thing-
Waze, by the way. I don't know
love
if you
Waze.
guys.
Well, somebody
Yeah,
said in the
Waze is
chat
good.
room, and I think it's true, that in some ways Apple Maps was the best thing that could happen to navigation on the iPhone because it got people to try something else. And Waze is free and amazing. I love it's a social mapping app.
Yep.
I use it anytime I'm going somewhere where there's going to be traffic or whatever. I just love Waze. In fact, I just like Waze because I like telling people there's cops around the corner.
Me too.
That is one of the best features.
It's so fun. You said I have it set up so you just wave your hand in front of the phone because I have the phone on a little knob on the dashboard. I wave like that and it goes, "What?" And I say, "I want to report a cop." And it goes, "Okay." And you get
there's
points.
cops. You can see the cops there.
Yeah. I'm sure police officers don't like this too much, but And by the way, all those little cute little icons, those are Wazers. Those are people using Waze.
Yeah.
And so then as you're driving along, Waze says, attention, debris in the roadway, or attention, police officer ahead, or accident ahead. And it's actually like some additional information that's really useful, I think.
And you know, it's a great example of crowdsourcing. I mean, a lot of people, I think, assume that whenever something's crowdsourced like that, that there's going to be bad information or it's going to be useless because people will just say things that aren't true. And the amazing thing to me is that happens so rarely. You know, people don't say there's a cop where there isn't one, or they don't say, you know, there's a huge gap in the road where there isn't one. They mostly want to tell other drivers what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also does a really good reroute. On my trip down to LA, it routed us around an accident, and you could see a bunch of Wazers were stuck in traffic, and it routed us around and saved us, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. It was awesome.
So they've been around for a couple of years, but it's obvious that they're really starting to take off. Was it Mary Meeker or somebody, maybe Esther Dyson, who said this is a perfect...
I think it was Esther.
Yeah. Mary Meeker is also a strategic advisor, but this is a perfect example of as you say, Matthew, crowdsourcing done right.
Even if you're stuck in traffic, by the way, seeing a picture of the 18-wheeler that's overturned really helps you know, okay, I'm going to be stuck here for an hour, you know, at least.
And actually, I've looked at apps specifically for that reason. You know, you're stuck. You really want to know. And once you find out, oh, there's a huge accident and there's lanes closed, it actually makes it better in a way. You're still stuck, but at least you know, it's something serious.
Well, it's so funny because if you ran a radio, up till now it was the radio, right? And anybody who ever commuted realizes it's useless. You listen to traffic reports; they don't mention where you are. You have to listen every 8 minutes. They're doing another one, and it's useless. And by the time you hear that there was a problem, you know there's a problem. But so if I were in the radio traffic business, I'd be terrified about Waze.
Well,
I agree.
You see what's happening to local KGO radio and how cut back they're getting.
Yeah.
They're, that whole model is just disappearing so fast.
Yeah,
exactly.
In my car, I have Bluetooth. I have Spotify. I have Waze. I have now things that read tweets and news to me.
Robert is driving down the road. He's putting on his makeup. He's hearing. He's got bacon and eggs cooking in this.
Yeah, he's got the waffle iron going.
I have a car that half drives itself. So my Toyota Prius has front-facing radar that sees ahead and actually tries to keep you in the lane as well.
You need that. In fact, this is the best argument for autonomous vehicles I've ever heard. We're at this point. We're going to have autonomous vehicles because we're just not paying attention anymore.
But think about all that data. Think about all that data from Waze or whatever going to your car.
Oh, yeah.
So your car knows where to go. You don't even have to worry about it. It's already taking you a different route because Waze told you that route is closed.
This is one of the things I really love about this industry. I know this is why you guys are covering the beat that you're covering as a journalist. It's so fast. I mean, Waze is 2 years old, and it's completely disintermediating an industry that's been around for 30 years, like that. And and what I'm really find interesting is when these things start to merge and gel, and you've got Google now, and you've got Waze. You're starting to see all these disparate pieces of information start to fit together. The only thing stopping them is that there are all these fiefdoms, and Facebook doesn't want to give Google anything. Instagram cuts off Twitter, and Twitter cuts off Instagram. Yep. And if it weren't for that, what a world.
And I don't know if you guys read that Anil Dash's blog post about what we've lost by the rise of walled gardens and proprietary networks and systems. That is a real barrier to sort of the functioning of the kind of things we're talking about, is that once they get big enough, those companies don't want to play with anyone else. They want to use the open web to get big and get lots of users, but then once they're big, then it's all proprietary systems and don't use our API and closing down.
And Neil says, I find younger folks may not even know how the web used to be. Can you believe we're already talking about the good old days on the World Wide Web? He says,
well, I was talking to someone, I think it was at Branch, and we were talking about discussions and comments and and threads and community. And, you know, I made reference to AOL, and I might as well have been talking about the moon, you know, because he wasn't even alive when AOL was around, so he didn't have that as a comparison. And then even blog comments were kind of this ancient, you know, stone knives and bearskins technology or whatever.
Remember Technorati?
20-something.
Remember Technorati, right? He talks about that. He says 5 years ago, most social photos were uploaded to Flickr. Images were easily discovered on the public web. Photos people uploaded to be licensed. Now Flickr's coming back, baby.
Flickr's coming back.
Great iOS app.
It is a great app.
Yeah.
It is a great app.
But is it too late?
I'm afraid it might be. I don't know.
It's essentially Instagram, and this is what everybody said. Why couldn't Flickr have just done Instagram 5 years ago?
They could have.
They could have, and they didn't, and that was a huge missed bet.
And I do know that I've talked to a couple of guys who were there and who wanted to do those things. And can you imagine the frustration of knowing that that's what you should have done and watching years go by and other people do what you could have done?
Mathew, you know, big companies never innovate. Here's a new app called Light, which lets you scrub through in real time hundreds, if not thousands, of photos.
What's it called?
Instagram doesn't do this.
Light.
And so
Light?
Instagram
Are those your photos, and where are they coming from?
No, these are other people's photos that I'm just looking at. I can look at my own pose. So here's
Have you seen
my photos.
Everpics?
Here's my photos. I took these at the Qualcomm headquarters down in San Diego. So this is a little tour around the Qualcomm.
But I'm assuming museum. Instagram could do that if they wanted to, couldn't they?
Not really. No, Instagram was made for one photo at a time. These guys built their databases to scrub through thousands of photos at one time. And people are asking, why would you want to do that? Well, think about the Google Glasses world. You're going to be able to capture a frame every 30 seconds as you live your life. You're going to need a new way to go through a large number of photos very, very quickly. The Light database is the way to do that. Again, the world changes.
Everpics is interesting. I interviewed Pierre Olivier Latour. He did Quartz Composer, which Apple bought. He did. He worked at besides Apple, a number of other places doing like Cool Iris, doing very interesting Apple software. And he's got this program. Have you seen Everpics? You upload all your photos to it, and then from everywhere, from every source, and then it taxonomizes them, categorizes them, and this is the cool thing, lets you scroll through them very quickly on your iPhone or your iPad. So it's I think it's a similar idea, which is it should be easier to see our pictures.
Yep.
I think the categorization is the hard part. I mean, I've got 25,000 photos, you know, and most of them are on Flickr. I tried to go through and tag them, and I mean, you just don't have enough hours in the day. And even facial recognition only gets you part of the way. And so it's this huge, you know, it's like having shoeboxes full of photos, except now you've got hard drives full of photos, but you don't know who's in them or what they're of or when they were taken.
Nedwin just asked, where are all these billions of photos going to be stored? They're going to be stored in the cloud. You're not going to... those photos I just showed you are on the cloud. They're not on my local device. They pull down that quickly.
Right.
This is a new world. That's
not
how
a
world
Everpics works.
Store them.
That's exactly how Everpics works too. It's an interesting.
But that's a data cost issue too, isn't it?
I mean, it is
for somebody.
Every time I join a new service and they say, "Hey, upload all your photos," I'm thinking, "Yeah, I'm going to go over my cable, you know, data cap in like half an hour."
Well, and that's the same thing with Robert driving down the highway, listening to radio on the internet.
Right.
You know, it's very. You
data.
hit these bandwidth caps very quickly, and in fact, go ahead.
Well, and it costs a lot of money for the. I mean, I work for a cloud computing company. Somebody asked if I invest in any of these companies. I have no investments. I'm paid by Rackspace. That's it. But you know, these companies are paying Rackspace or Amazon for these cloud computing systems, and it does get expensive.
Yeah, if I were, I would be. I think Rackspace is in a good business right now.
And I think there's two big. You know, you mentioned the platform problem and the sort of cross. You know. Different services working across different platforms. The other big bottleneck is just bandwidth. And if all the cable companies and providers are charging you based on the data you use, all of these services are getting you to use more and more and more data.
You know, Mark Andreessen had actually some interesting, very contrarian things to say. In an interview he gave, was it Bloomberg or the Journal? No, it was he's with VentureWire. And he said, one of the things he said is net neutrality is a bad idea. He said, if it's not so much a problem in landline, but when we're talking mobile data, it doesn't make sense for Google to get a free ride on top of these mobile data networks. It's just not going to work. I thought that was kind of surprising. Saying I'm against net neutrality in Silicon Valley is like saying I'm in favor of, Of
course, Mark likes saying things like that, doesn't he?
He does.
I think he gets a kick out of doing that.
He does. He also said the dot-com bust was a great thing.
Yeah.
Actually,
well, and depending on your point of view, it probably was.
Yeah. He says the problem was just that the dot-com ideas weren't wrong. They were just too early.
Too early. And I mean, you could argue the fiber bubble was a good thing because we wound up with all this cheap network.
Look at all the dark fiber we have that was paid for by all the investors who lost money in the stock market in 2000, and now we get to ride on it. Somebody actually, that insight is not new. I can't remember who. A well-known economist says all of these booms.
We need bubble.
Yeah, we need the bubble. The example given is in the railroads. All the railroads went bankrupt after the push to transcontinental railroads. But we got railroads. We got telegraphs. Sure, they lost money, but we got a transcontinental railroad. We got a telegraph and all that investment.
Electricity was exactly the same. There were electricity companies on every street corner, and lots of them went public, and 98% of them went bankrupt or got bought.
You know who's not going bankrupt anytime soon? Oppo Gangnam Style. Soon he will. Psy, the K-pop superstar. By the way, and every time you look at this video, you get an ad. I'm getting an ad now for Louis Vuitton. I always skip these ads, so I don't know if there's any money in this. Look at the number of views now on Oppo Gangnam Style. 965,625,321. Sometime before the end of the year, he will hit 1 billion views, the first YouTube video ever.
And he's made, what, 80 million or something?
He's made 8.1 million. There's a very interesting article on TechDirt in which they say, because he did not attempt to shut down piracy.
Exactly.
Because he allowed everybody and their brother to make an Oppo Gangnam Style ripoff, he is making $8.1 million, according to the Associated Press, on that video.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, if you want to make something like that go viral, the best way to do it is to get everybody to pirate the hell out of it and create their own mashups. I mean, that's how it happens. If you try and lock that down, you effectively kill any chance of it actually becoming a viral phenomenon.
Plus, we're going to go and see his concerts and buy his next album.
Oh, yeah. It's just $8 million on that, but he's become an international superstar. He was a star in Korea, but he's an international superstar now. And all you had to do was make a very quirky video and an insanely catchy song, and then get everybody in the world to copy it and fake it and do. We even have a TWiT version of this song. What is it about? It's the video, right? You see the video and the weird dance.
Is, yeah.
But then you play the video just twice, and it's an earworm.
Yeah. And the fun part is he clearly doesn't care. It's a little like LMFAO. He clearly doesn't care that he looks like an idiot. I mean, that's part of the joy is just watching him.
It's always been my motto. Look like an idiot, and the world will be the path.
Yeah, let them laughing with you.
Yeah, to your door. Let's take a little break. We're having fun. Mathew Ingram is here from GigaOM. Robert Scoble, the Scobleizer. And let's find out what's coming up. The week ahead with Tom. Is Tom here? Okay.
You're going to have to turn off Gangnam Style because I have to turn up the TriCaster.
The week ahead with Tom Merritt. Go ahead. He's frozen solid.
Hey, thanks, Leo. I'm on the road, but that doesn't mean we're still not keeping an eye on the week ahead for tech news today. Not much happening as we run up to the holidays, but Tuesday, December 18th, Oracle will have their earnings report. And then Thursday, December 20th, RIM will have their earnings report. A lot of people will have their eyes on that. Friday, December 21st is not only that significant day on the Mayan calendar, supposedly, but it's also the day that Anonymous said they were going to launch their Project Mayhem, codenamed Tyler. So we'll see if that WikiLeaks replacement happens as well. That's a look at the week ahead. Back to you, Leo.
Previously on TWiT, This Week in Enterprise Tech.
It's the show dedicated to the enterprise professional, the IT pro, and the geek who just wants to know how the world is connected. I'm not going to lie and say that I'm going to try it backpacking. More likely, I'm going to try it behind my office building just because it's cool. But I could see it as both a backpacking tool and an end-of-the-world item that you must have in your go bag.
All about Android.
We are. Okay, so there you go. Live TWiT streaming to my device. The strangest example.
Oh, that's so cool.
Infinity phone. Excellent.
Sorry. Look how far your volume thing just keeps going.
I know, right?
NSFW.
Can we just get this out of the way? Because I know you deal with this on every appearance you ever make. When is the third book expected?
There is no set publication date right now.
I thought you were about to say
Patrick
there is
Rothfuss.
No third book. Leave me alone. Click. And then that was going to be the end.
Just hang up and I'm done.
GizWiz.
But I gotta say, get the double-barreled one because it really shoots a lot more marshmallows.
No kidding. TWiT.
We have way too much
Where'd I
fun.
put my keys?
Wow, I didn't know Patrick Rothfuss was on NSFW. I have to watch that. That was last week's episode?
Oh, God, it was so funny.
He is so good.
He rolled with every joke. That was definitely one of the best guests that we've had on NSFW.
He is the author of The Name of the Wind, which is book 1 of the King Kriller Chronicles. That's what they were talking about, is when is book 3 coming out. And it is one of the big surprises of the year for me, because I don't, fantasy books, I'm not a big fantasy fan. But I read it. It's like Game of Thrones, good books. And so Trey Ratcliffe told me, if you don't like this book, I don't like you. He said, I use this as a test to see if you can be my friend. And I think he was kind of serious. So I read it, and I love it.
Are you still friends?
Yes. I was really surprised. You saw his T-shirt. Patrick's T-shirt said,
yeah.
What was it? PB to AU. Led to gold. He was an alchemist. Anyway, we'll go back and there it is. Yeah, The Name of the Wind. I don't watch NSFW because I'm afraid of what I'll see. And I don't want to have to cancel the show. No, I'm just kidding. He was very good.
Yeah, they had him come up with stories based off of, they looked at haircut photos of there's these very swarthy, like, men with crazy hairdos.
Yeah.
And so they'd show a photo of a guy, and then they'd say, well, make up a story of him. And it went far from there, and it was hilarious. Very hilarious.
It's the thing about I'm not going to go on and on, but I will. Maybe I will. The thing about The Name of the Wind is it's this kind of super consistent universe. And he's got to be super smart, this guy. I mean, anyway, moving on. Do we care that Google's revenues, sheltered in Bermuda, have now soared to $10 billion? These are revenues they don't pay taxes on. Do we care about this? It's not illegal.
It's happened a lot. Many companies do things to shelter their revenues. A lot of tech companies, for instance, are headquartered in Reno,
Delaware.
Delaware.
We're a Delaware corporation. Actually, we pay more because we're a Delaware corporation, because California still charges you because they're not going to let you get your revenue out of here.
But Microsoft had its revenue team down in Reno for a long time. There's lots of companies who are headquartered in Ireland because the taxes are better.
There's what is it? The Irish sandwich and the Dutch wraparound or something. There's a whole scheme.
But it's like ships are chartered under Liberia.
Right. It's legal. So what you have to do is change the laws.
Ken has a great point. Corporations are required to maximize their profits for their investors.
It's that same thing we just talked about. You can't expect, as Jonathan Schwartz said, a corporation's job is to maximize profit.
And tax avoidance is not illegal. Tax evasion is illegal.
Right. Even in Canada. If Usain Bolt can leave England so he doesn't have to pay taxes, then Google should go ahead and do the double Irish and the Dutch sandwich. That's what it's called, by the way. You transfer funds to Ireland, where they have lower corporate taxes, and then you move royalty payments from subsidiaries in Ireland and the Netherlands to a Bermuda unit, which is what Google does. And that way you get a tax rate. You want to know what Google's tax rate? Take a guess what Google paid in taxes last year on profit.
Almost nothing.
Percentage rate, you mean?
Yeah. 3.2%. What do you and I pay?
It's more than that.
50.
40%.
Yeah, multiply by 10.
I am 737. We did this last time you were on, Robert.
Yeah, I'm 107.
107. This is.
I don't have my plaque though up here. So.
Did they bill us for the Google Glass? The $1,500 for Google Glass?
Not yet. Not yet. They said they'll bill them when they ship them.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd like to pay now before the fiscal cliff, because I think my taxes are going up, not down. This is what happens.
I don't have such problems.
This is why tax policy. Well, but this is why tax policy makes every company in America is now trying to spend as much as they can before December 31st. And trying to get all of the income they can into this year, because next year it's a big unknown.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about this stuff, but my people tell me, that's what we got to do right now. And so I can't blame Google for maximizing profits and minimizing taxes.
And by the way, the rumor on the Google Glass is that Google's going to pull a Q moment where they won't charge anyone who pre-ordered.
That's what they should do. That's a good rumor. Let's start that rumor.
Yeah.
All we wanted to know is that you really cared and you really wanted it, but we didn't really want your money. They shouldn't. Who are the people who did that? The developers, early adopters, the kind of people you want to give?
Developers. Only developers who were at the Google I/O conference could even buy them.
So don't you want to give them free Google Glasses? Come on.
I'll take one.
That's a lot of money.
$1,500.
That's a lot of money to spend on a prototype technology.
There's a lot of competition because developers know that if you're first on the platform, you get a huge advantage. And so I have friends who want my glasses like now to build apps.
Sure.
Rent them out.
You saw that Ray Kurzweil announced he is going to Google as a director of engineering. Ray Kurzweil. Very interesting fellow. He invented the Kurzweil synthesizer for Stevie Wonder. Also created a text-to-speech for Stevie Wonder. The Kurzweil voice synthesis was one of the early voice synthesis programs. And he, of course, is big on the singularity. He's the guy, and I've interviewed him many times about this, who says in the next couple of decades, computer intelligence will be indistinguishable. Machine intelligence will be indistinguishable from human intelligence. And that's a singularity because at that point, machines can start designing themselves, and the things will just happen very rapidly after that, and then Terminator or Matrix.
Skynet.
Skynet. And it's so funny that he's going to work for Google. Doesn't anybody pay any attention?
Skynet's coming, baby.
I'm scared.
I think it was Evgeny Morozov said the headlines were wrong. Kurzweil didn't join Google. Google joined Ray Kurzweil.
He says, I've been interested in technology and machine learning in particular for a long time. When I was 14, I designed software that wrote original music and went on later to invent the first print-to-speech reading machine for the blind. Among other inventions, I've always worked to create practical systems that will make a difference in people's lives, which is what excites me as an inventor. Yeah, Ray really sees himself as an inventor, not an artificial intelligence expert or anything, as an inventor. He said, in 1999, I said that in about a decade, we would see technologies such as self-driving cars and mobile phones that could answer your questions. And people criticize these predictions as unrealistic. Fast forward a decade, Google has demonstrated self-driving cars, and people are indeed asking questions of their Android phones and iPhones, Ray. It's easy to shrug our collective shoulders as if these technologies have always been around, but we're really on a remarkable trajectory of quickening innovation, and Google is at the forefront of this development. Smart move to hire him. Good PR move. I don't know if Ray has any great inventions left in him.
I don't know that he needs to.
Right.
All he has to do is explain them to the world.
Even if he just talks to some people at Google and says smart things and gives them ideas about the future, that's worth, arguably huge sums of money to Google.
Sure. I mean, if I'm Larry Page, I hire Vint Cerf, I hire Ray Kurzweil. I find all of those banner names that you can, because if nothing else, it tells the world, hey, we're committed to the future and to funding people who are making interesting changes in the world. Now, Ray's the guy also who, of course, says that he wants to live long enough to live forever. Mm-hmm. And is taking a bunch of vitamins and crazy exercise. He just wants to live a few more decades because he hopes to pour his brain into a machine so that his body will die, but he won't. Or something. It could just be medical advances. He's not sure.
A head in a jar.
I will put my head in a jar. In fact, I have to say, I harbor a kind of, and in fact, one of the reasons I really kind of continue to do what I'm doing is I'm hoping that some kid today is going to be influenced by what we do and get into technology, and in 30 years will say, yeah, that Leo Laporte, he really got me interested in technology. Maybe I should put his brain in a jar.
In a jar.
I'm just trying to get in front of that line.
I want to be, we could have a whole group of brains in jars like on that Star Trek episode, I bet 5 Quatloos for the newcomer. That would be great.
Some 150 years from now, we'll be doing TWiT. It'll just be a bunch of brains in a jar around a table. Vibrating. I was a little disappointed by the Boy Genius report. Actually, I think the study came not from the Boy Genius report, but they reported it. That it was, I think, Business Insider pointing to a research note from Goldman Sachs. There's the originator. Goldman Sachs said it would cost Google $140 billion or more to put Google Fiber everywhere. And I was a little disappointed to hear that. But we talked about it on Twig, and they said, well, you don't have to do it all at once. It can be a smaller capital expenditure. And Google, in fact, has said, no, we might want to get into more cities. Eric Schmidt said fiber isn't just an experiment. I hate it when he does this. We're trying to decide where to expand next. Ooh, Eric.
My house.
Mr. Cotta.
Yeah.
Eric. You could use some up there in Canada.
Definitely. I definitely could.
That's one of the things I think that we're all talking privacy. We want to protect ourselves. But the candy that these companies are offering, come on. I got a little piece of candy. Come here. It's pretty good. I'll take it.
I know Vic over there sees their worldwide network of fiber as a competitive advantage. He says they can do things like Google Hangouts because of that worldwide network of data centers and fiber. And so I'm sure that Larry Page is thinking and Sergey are thinking about, well, if we extended this fiber network into communities, what does that mean for the business long term?
Yeah. We're going to take a break, come back with more. Mathew Ingram is here from GigaOhm, the Scobleizer, and I have an iPad to give away. We got a winner. So let me talk a little bit about GoToMeeting first, because it's the GoToMeeting.
Is it a real iPad or an iPad mini?
It's a big iPad. It's the iPad 4.
Wow.
Fourth generation.
And it's like this one.
Are you a fan? What do you like, the mini or the big one?
Well, for watching the chat room, the big one works good.
Yeah, I love the mini for getting around, but I wish it were a Retina display. I like the Retina display.
Yeah,
I agree.
When the Retina
text
comes out, it's going to kill.
Yeah.
The text is a little, well, this is how they get us twice, right?
Yeah,
so we're going to buy,
Yep.
I bought one yesterday. It cost me $500 to get the, this is my Nexus 7, my iPad mini. And of course, if a Retina one comes out, I'm going to get that.
You should have entered our contest. We could have given you one for free.
I can afford to buy these things. So.
Let me talk about GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting is the way to meet today. It's, of course, the best screen sharing. Citrix really knows how to do that kind of thing. But they've added HD faces now, so you can see the other person. You can now host meetings from your iPhone or iPad. You can present from your iPad. Oops, let me go back to that. You could present from your iPad. This is, talk about making meeting portable. This is mind-boggling. They've added new features. They're always adding new features. The HD Faces means you can see the people on the other end. The iPad meetings mean you can do it like on the road, in a park, anywhere you go. Very easy, by the way, to not only set up a meeting ahead of time with email, but to set up an ad hoc meeting. Say, let's meet now. All right, I'll set it up. I'll press the button here. You know, you'll get the email. You click the link. You're in. You're seeing the other people. You're seeing their screen sharing. It's just really fantastic. I am a big fan. I want you to try it. Visit gotomeeting.com. Click try it free. You have to install it on your Mac or your PC, and then get the free app for the iPhone, the iPad, the Kindle, the Nexus, and start meeting today. You got 30 days to meet as much as you want for as long as you want. That's the nice thing about it. It's a flat monthly fee. Gotomeeting.com. Just use the promo code TWiT when you do the try it free so that we get credit for that. And now, here's how the giveaway worked. We asked people to tweet where in the world they would like to be meeting with whom and why this holiday season, if they had GoToMeeting on their iPad. And the key was that they would have to use the hashtag TwitFreeIPad. So we got thousands of entries on Twitter over the last 7 days. And I've got this nice, hot new iPad 4, Verizon, 32 gigs, and it's going to go to Kenneth P. Coleman, Ken S. Ken on Twitter. With the iPad, I would take a meeting with Walt Disney inside Disney World now that their parks have free Wi-Fi. I like it. Kenneth Coleman, here you go. And we're going to email you and ask you if you want me to autograph this to you or to eBay buyer. You have the choice, and we'll send that out to you. Isn't that nice? I took the plastic off. You don't mind. So congratulations, Kenneth P. Coleman. And stay tuned, because I'm sure we're going to give away many more iPads. Thanks to our friends at Citrix for setting that up. Go to meeting.com, click the Try It Free button, and use our promo code TWIT. Ooh, that would look good on Google Fiber, wouldn't it? Ooh. Then we're going to have telepresence. Hey, okay, have either of you seen The Hobbit yet?
Nope.
Yes.
You're in Canada. They have it up there. I'm sorry.
They do,
That's
yeah.
me. Did you see it in IMAX? Did you see it in 48 frames?
I did not see it in 48 frames, no. I saw it in 3D, but just the regular number of frames.
What do you think?
I thought it was great, but it was long. Like, some parts of it were quite a bit longer than they needed to be, I think.
Well, they have to stretch it because it's one book, 3 films. That ain't going to be easy.
So it was like some parts of the movie, you could tell they were like a sentence in the book, but they're a scene that goes on for 15 minutes.
That's why.
But I liked it. It was good.
Here's the trailer. Now, a couple of things that are interesting. Peter Jackson filmed it on Red Epic cameras. He had something like 50 Red Epics. These are the 4 and 5K cameras. Filmed it in not only high resolution, but high frame rate. And instead of 24 frames per second, which is the typical frame rate for movies, he shot it in 48 frames per second. Of course, 3D as well. They had it 2 epics slaved together. In fact, I talked to somebody on the radio show who does the rigs for the helicopters and the planes that they use, because they did a lot of aerial shooting of New Zealand in this. And he said, yeah, we had to make special non-standard rigs because they're doing 2 epics side by side. So they're shooting, God, I mean, just amazing.
Amazing.
But I would like to see the 48 frames. Now, some have said they've seen it and it looks plasticky.
I read a whole article about it before I went, and the one phrase that I keep seeing is the soap opera effect.
Right.
So the fact that the frames are kind of, being interlaced in between the frames that the rate that you're used to seeing, it smooths things out kind of, and it gives them kind of an unreal look. Of course, it's all of the stuff that you're watching is unreal anyway, so I'm not sure how you would notice.
There was a review I read of the 48 frames that said it's so real that we're used to films looking kind of magical. It's so real that they said Gandalf's staff looks like a resin cast that you might have gotten from a Wiccan supply house. That it's a little.
I think that is the risk, actually. It's a little like when HD first came, and I remember, particularly news shows, they were having to redo all their sets and redo all their makeup because you were suddenly seeing such a huge level of detail.
Right.
Everything looked fake and cheap.
Dana Stevens writing in Slate's the title was Bored of the Rings. That was begging to be written. The Hobbit looks like Teletubbies and is way too long.
It's long.
He or she, I'm not sure, Dana, if that's a boy or a girl, has some really scathing things to say about the 48 frames per second. It looks like an 80s era home video shot by someone who happened to be standing around on the set while The Hobbit was being filmed. Other visual analogs scribbled down in my screening notes include Teletubbies and daytime soap operas. The effect is curiously washed out and flat, yet unforgiving in its hyper-realism. Any imperfection or note of artifice in the costumes or sets stands out as if illuminated with a bank of fluorescent lights. This wildly expensive visual technology paradoxically conspires to make everything else in the film look cheap. I found myself fixating, for example, on Gandalf's staff, an elegant Art Nouveau-esque creation that in earlier Lord of the Rings films would have blended in as another part of the richly detailed ambient whimsy. Seen at 48 frames per second, the staff looked like a cast resin prop you might order online from a Wiccan supply house. Wow, she did not like the movie. But we're still gonna. I bought 21 tickets to take much of the team on next Friday.
It is long. There's no question.
Yeah.
But Martin, can't remember his last name, who plays Bilbo, is really good.
I love him
he's
anyway.
Great. And Gollum is fantastic.
Yeah,
Martin Freeman.
Yeah, Martin Freeman. It's the same Gollum as before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Andy
even better,
Serkis.
though.
Andy
The
Serkis
mocap.
is doing the mocap thing and all that. Say again?
Yeah.
But his face is
It's
higher
even better.
res.
Yeah.
Much higher res capture points. Andy Serkis is kind of amazing. He's the guy who did the ape in Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
He's brilliant.
I thought that was wonderful in that.
He could do a whole movie. He could do every character.
Yeah. Yeah, he could. Why not? Well, we'll see. I'm going to go see it anyway. I don't want to sour anybody on it, but both. It's not
well
just.
worth seeing.
Yeah.
Well worth.
Oh yeah, you got to see it. Any geek has to see it. But the question is about this technology, and both James Cameron and Peter Jackson, and actually other directors as well, are promoting this new format, which is, and actually they want to go to 4K or higher. I think even 8K, 48 frames per second, 3D. They say it'll be more vivid. But
I have to say, the 3D, and this is a sort of old debate, I guess, but there were maybe 4 or 5 spots in the movie where the 3D really added something.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on that.
I've never been sold on 3D, but I guess my conclusion now is, if you like it, great, and some people like it. I don't. Some people don't. A large percentage of people get sick or headaches from 3D, so I don't think 3D is going away. As long as they continue to offer 2D in movies, versions of the movie, as well as 3D, then I'm fine. If they made us watch it in 3D, I might be a little upset.
And I wonder whether the 48 frames or higher frame rates will just become the norm, and we'll sort of get used to it. If everybody's making movies in that format, then effectively that will be what movies now look like, and only old fogies will remember what movies used to look like.
Well, I'm reminded, frankly, of when HD came out, and people said it was too crisp. Oh, there you are. There Robert is with his 3D pan. Is that the Panasonic?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3D camera. Are you glad you bought that, Robert?
Mostly. First of all, I shoot most of my stuff in 2D because it's easier to store. And most of the stuff I shoot is talking heads, so I don't need depth. But it's fun to have once in a while, particularly if you have a nice 3D TV.
We need 4D cameras. That's what we need.
Well, what we really need, and I hope this will happen, is higher res. I want to see 4K and ultimately 8K. In fact, Sony's now selling an 8K. Is it 8K or a 4K TV for $30,000, $30,000. But you can buy it, and it comes with a media server. It comes with a big hard drive because there's no 4K content. So you have to have a media server to serve the content. But I have to say, I think this is going to happen, and I think it's going to be so realistic that then 3D won't even matter, because it'll feel like you're looking through a window at stuff.
Yeah, it sort of feels like 3D is an interim thing to me.
Yeah.
You know, at CES last year, there were several 4K sets. I think there was at least one 8K demo, if I remembered, in the Samsung booth.
There was.
It's just real expensive. And like people said, there's no content. In fact, you know, I was at Davos this year, the World Economic Forum. There wasn't a single professional who had a 3D camera other than me. Yeah. And the TV industry is just ignoring 3D, and they're going to ignore 4K and 8K for a long time, because they just invested a lot of money in upgrading their systems to 1080p.
Yeah.
And that's a huge shift to go from 1080p to 4K.
Yeah. Australian police said, don't use Apple Maps, you could die. Thank goodness Google Maps came out right after this story broke. Police in Victoria, Australia had to start warning on their webpage motorists who are trying to visit the city of Mildura. Apparently, Apple Maps placed Mildura in the middle of the Murray Sunset National Park, where 70 kilometers away from the actual location, where there is no water supply. Temperature can easily go over 100 degrees. It's summertime in Australia. And there's no cell reception. So they've actually had to rescue distressed motorists who followed their iPhone into the wilderness and got stuck. Some of the motorists, according to this story, located by police, have been stranded for up to 24 hours without food or water and have walked long distances through dangerous terrain to get phone reception, just so they could get home. 6 people in 2 months using Apple Maps. Apple, of course, fixed it immediately and apologized. They said, you know, we used information from a Australian gazetteer that placed it there. It's not our fault. But I think what it really underscores is, there's a lot of data. Apple uses 24 different sources for the data in its maps, but Google and Nokia and others have been at this for a long time, fixing the data. And that's key.
And I think that's the key. I mean, Alexis Madrigal, I think it was, at The Atlantic, did a great piece about what it takes to come up with quality map data. And, you know, you start with half-decent data, but you have to tweak and fix and jimmy around streets and names of things. And, you know, this is just one sort of extreme example of what it takes.
Yep. If you have a tattoo, I don't begin a lot of stories here on TWiT with that, but if you have a tattoo or you are a stock trader, you are much more likely to break your iPhone. Square Trade, you know, they're the company that people pay extra money for the breakage insurance for iPhones, has crunched their numbers, and they've come up with this. The stock traders, frequent stock traders, are 40% more likely than the typical iPhone owner to report damage. If you have a tattoo, you're 25% more likely, as are those who own motorcycles. People who have sex more than once a week are 50% more likely to report a damaged iPhone. What are they, keeping it under the mattress? Big households and pet owners are slightly more likely than average to report a damaged iPhone. So if you're a stock trader who has regular sex and a tattoo, you're for sure going to break your iPhone. Is this ridiculous or what? I don't know.
It is kind of ridiculous.
I can't help it. It's such a good...
It also mentions more likely to report damage. Not more likely to have damage, but more likely to report damage.
Tattoos, I guess, and motorcycles, I guess I understand. I'm not sure why stock traders and sex have to do with damaged iPhones.
You know, correlation is not causation.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that insight.
Someone in the chat room was going to say that anyway.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely. Boy, I was going to say it's the 8-bit Mathew Ingram, but it's really now 4-bit, I would say.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're down to 1 bit. Thanks, Rogers.
I don't know. You know, yeah, are you on Rogers? Rogers, I think what happens, we used to have this problem with Amber MacArthur all the time in Toronto, who was also on Rogers for a while. I think Rogers shapes bandwidth, and after you use Skype for about an hour, which is almost exactly how long
they do,
they intentionally degrade it. It's like, no, you really shouldn't be on the phone that long. Time to go read a book.
In my case, it actually looked better this way. So,
if you hung up and started the call again, do you go back to normal or?
Well, we did, and it did.
No, because we tried that.
We could also call from a different ISP. We have 2 Skype accounts that are on different ISPs.
Why don't you try that? I'm going to do a Carbonite commercial while you're doing that. Why don't you recall from? Are we on Comcast and we're going to go to Sonic, or are we on Sonic and going to go to Comcast?
I believe we're going to Comcast.
Okay, let's go to. Somebody just said, I was just reading a report that Comcast actually has very low latency, very good internet.
So I'm on Comcast.
I wouldn't celebrate. I wouldn't want to celebrate Comcast in any way, but hey, you know when you say when it's good, you got to say it.
Comcast, though, the trick is you have to be on a new line and have one of their new modems. And that my Comcast has been absolutely stunning.
You need DOCSIS 3 for sure. We're actually on fiber from Comcast. This is a Comcast business thing. It's not cable. It's fiber. So it's not what you would normally get. I love the story. We'll talk about it when we get Mathew back. But Brian Roberts, the CEO of Comcast, says, we're just like Apple. No, you're not. No, you're not, actually, at all, in any way, like Apple. Our show today brought to you by Carbonite.com. Now, if you do have good upstream bandwidth, Carbonite is a great way to back up. It's no point to do it if you don't have internet. Most of us now, though, have good connections, good upstream connections. And I have to say, if you do, the best way to back up is off-site, right, to the internet. Carbonite's automatic. You don't have to think about it. Continuous. A change is made on a file. It's instantly backed up. Off-site backup for a very affordable $59 a year. That's less than $5 a month for everything on a computer. If you have multiple computers, external drives, a small business, they have plans for that too. You can find out more at Carbonite.com. Always a low flat rate. They don't meter the amount of data or anything like that. And I tell you, the nice thing about it is you can always verify that the backup happened by visiting your Carbonite account on any computer or with your smartphone apps. There's your stuff. It's a really great system, and I want you to try it free. No credit card needed. Just use our offer code TWiT. You can try it free for 2 weeks, 15 days. If you decide to buy after the trial, because you use the offer code TWiT, they're going to give you a little reward. You get 2 extra free months, 14 months for the price of 12. Carbonite.com, Mac or PC, automatic, secure, and I think very affordable. There's all the plans. Now, I have to point out some of the business plans require, like the Home Premier and the Home Plus require Windows. They do now have Mac for Business and Business Premier. And the home version, of course, is Mac and Windows as well. Carbonite.com. Use the offer code TWiT and try it today. So we got Matt now on Comcast.
I do believe.
Look at that. It's just like Apple.
How do I look? Hey.
Hey. Brian Roberts says, I just had to laugh when I read this. This is the CEO of Comcast, the most reviled company in the world. Brian Roberts.
No, AT&T is worse.
Okay, you're right.
AT&T was probably, yeah.
Okay.
I would agree.
But Comcast is a close second.
Second most.
He's learned from Apple how to take really complicated things and make them simple, make them fun, make them beautiful, make them easy. What is he talking about? Does he know that he's a cable company? He says, this is in an interview with Forbes, as I think about where I'd like to see Comcast go, it's absolutely to take this overwhelming amount of content choices, now with the internet, so many more choices, and make them personalized, make them easy to interact with, and have any time on any device. Maybe this is a hint that he's working with Apple on this long-rumored Apple television thing.
Maybe.
I was recently in Silicon Valley, and somebody said to us, he said, every idea you've heard about someday is going to happen. That doesn't sound like a good thing. Well, but, okay, here's why I would say that, Mathew. Ideally, Apple would go to the content creators directly and say, let's disintermediate. Let's sell HBO shows directly. Let's sell Sony movies directly. Who needs cable companies? But boy, none of these everybody's scared to death of that, because if you get Comcast mad at you and they pull the plug on you, you lose your business. It's not, you can't replace the one with the other yet. So instead of going to the content creators, what if you went to Comcast? What if Apple said, look, we're going to make a better set-top box. Comcast could be the Apple of cable television if you offered an Apple set-top box. What about that?
I don't know. To me, that doesn't feel like really. So then you get a great UI, but I would be disappointed if that was, and maybe that is the approach they're going to take. But to me, that it's a bit of a cop-out in a way. If you want to reinvent TV, you just hook up with the guy who's already kind of ruining it and make a better UI. That doesn't feel like,
I love it. Even the Canadians know how bad Comcast is.
Well, you need, for TV to work, you need the bandwidth in your house. And how many people bring bandwidth into my house? Comcast and AT&T.
The phone company and the cable
company. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not going to change anytime soon in Half Moon Bay, because
that's why we want Google.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good luck with that.
Fiber. Not going to happen, is it?
Not soon.
Not going to happen.
No. It happened for, we could all move to, where is that, Kansas City?
Yeah. But as I said, they said we're going to do it in some other places. Here's a good
this time of year.
Here's a good hack. I like this. Apparently, I congratulate the Next Web for this. Apparently, in 2011, the Next Web says they found that there was a ratio between the number of monthly active users of the Windows Phone Facebook application and the number of Windows Phone handsets sold. So they've done a little bit more of some calculation. And actually, this one's from WM Power User, but the same ratio. Using the number of monthly active Facebook users as a guide, we can see that around 627,000 MAU, monthly active Facebook users, of the built-in Facebook app have been added since October 1st. This is of Windows Phone. Multiplying by the MAU multiplier, you get, which is 6.75 handsets per active user. You get the magic number of 4.2 million Windows Phone handsets sold in the last 2 months. Not Apple numbers, certainly not Android numbers, but not bad. Credible.
How many months is that?
Since October, 4.2 million, October, November, and a little bit of
And
December.
Android is doing 1 million per day.
Okay.
And Apple is doing, let's say Apple's doing 1/6 of that.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Nothing to celebrate, huh? What do you think? Is Surface is success? Is Windows 8 a success?
Better than zero.
It's better than zero.
It's better
Windows
than zero.
Phone 8 a success, or is it too early to tell, or is Microsoft going down?
Well, Simpco has another article on TechMeme right now that says below the surface, where it says early data shows that the PC market has not experienced a pop from Windows 8.
Yes.
And he has a lot of stats on that.
And that's typical. That is actually typical. When a new version of Windows comes out, you fully expect a significant pop in sales.
Yeah.
This did not happen.
Somebody at the beginning of the show was giving me kudos for not being anti-Microsoft. It's just, why do I care about Microsoft anymore?
You don't even care enough to bash them.
No.
Just not a player. I don't know. I mean, I'm sitting here with my beautiful Surface tablet, my Windows RT tablet.
Let's be honest, Leo, if you were not a radio personality or a TV personality that needed to keep up to date on all these, would you be buying a Surface?
Apparently.
I went to the web. I did not see, I saw maybe 2 Surfaces there out of the whole audience of 3,500 people.
Yeah. I'm surprised that you saw 2.
I walked the planes, and I look at,
you see iPads everywhere.
Yeah. And Androids and some Kindles. And I have not seen a Surface in the wild yet. So other than at a tech conference,
Now, I have to say, and we said this from day one, that Microsoft has bet the farm on Windows 8.
Mm-hmm. They have to, because their future is on keeping Apple from taking over the world, or keeping Apple and Google from taking over the world. But this is not a place that Microsoft is used to. I worked at Microsoft. They're used to 80+% market share and 30+% margins. Mm-hmm. They are not going to have either in this new world.
No, those days are gone.
Yeah.
But I was mentioning to Leo that a lot of younger users, in particular my daughter and some of her friends, are kind of excited about Windows Phone. I wonder if it's because it's just different. You know, the UI is different. It's kind of interesting.
It's a nice phone. I like the OS. I spent a lot of time up at Microsoft a couple of weeks ago, playing with Surface and getting a good tour of it. It's nice. It's just okay. What does it bring to the market that I can't do with an Android tablet or can't do with an iPad? Is there a single app other than Office? Is there a single app that I can't do there? No.
I remember hearing Tom Peters talk, business management expert, or the search of excellence. And I think it was he who said that in order to replace an incumbent technology, you can't be a little bit better. You have to be 10 times better.
Yeah.
And I think that still rings true. You have to be so much better that it's obvious. And it's like, of course, it can't be as good. Why would anybody change?
And of course, there's network effects too, right? I know people who've not switched from iPhone specifically because they're so addicted to iMessage and all their contacts and friends are on there. BBM is the same. That network effect is what kind of glues people to that device.
Yeah. By the way, I'm interviewing the head of RIM on stage at CES. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I think they're even in a worse position, because at least Microsoft has won billions of dollars. When I went to London, I saw Surface ads everywhere. I mean, they're spending a crap load of money on advertising. And
can't do that.
I like the OS, so and Rackspace. Somebody asked, is anybody building apps for it? Yeah, there's a few apps here and there. Rackspace built an app for Windows 8, and we like the platform. It's just,
it's not now Windows 7
I spent my own $600 on this device yesterday, and I'm not. I had my hands on the Surface. I'm just not interested in it.
It's a little. My initial impression was this is kind of interesting and pretty, and I love it that Microsoft has innovated and tried something new. I like the Metro, start screen a lot. I actually do think it's a little more lively and interesting than the iPhone or even Android start screens. I mean, the tiles move. It's vibrant.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not very compelling in the long run. After I took it on the cruise and I used it a little bit, and I just stopped using it. It's like, there's no reason to.
It seems to me the only people who are really going to use it are people who, just like the BlackBerry tab, the only people who use it are going to be people who are already locked into that ecosystem.
It's kind of like the playbook. I think you're right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about RIM, because I've heard from a couple of people said, wait till you see BlackBerry 10. Do not count them out.
They have a lot of market share still, particularly overseas. The United States is going to be a tough one for them.
It's very clear that BlackBerry 10 has to make it. This just as, talk about betting the farm on Windows 8. BlackBerry 10 is it for RIM. I mean,
it's too late, I think. I just think it's too late. I mean, maybe it's great, but it's going to have to be that much greater. Right?
Yeah.
In order to, like you said, to get beyond.
Have either of you played with it?
I have not. I'm willing to, I'm willing to sit down and see it.
I presume that you'll get to
at some point at some point the industry will come out with something better, right? But I don't know. I mean, hold on a second. I have a Palm sitting underneath my table to remind me of when people said the same thing about another competitor to these two ecosystems, and it's really hard.
UI.
What's that?
It had a good UI. I mean, Palm OS.
I actually loved the pre.
It was great.
I thought it was fantastic.
But it was DOA because it was late, and so there's a lot of things that are in play. You know,
timing.
I don't know.
Huge. Now I got to tell you, RIM was down to $6 a share on the stock market. It's now $14. The stock market suddenly has decided maybe there is something going on. Actually, it's a great play for somebody who has a little extra money and is willing to bet a little bit that BB10 will make a big difference.
If it does, I will be completely shocked. I would.
Me too.
I mean, if we meet in a year and we are excited about RIM, I'll be absolutely shocked. I don't think the market can put up with it.
Makes me a little sad. I kind of am rooting for him.
I mean, so there's some things in play, by the way, that we should talk about. Tomorrow, there's a video coming out from Sencha that shows off why HTML5 is not dead, and it's.
I didn't know people said it was dead.
I know, but
well, who killed HTML5? I thought this was the next big thing.
Well, exactly.
Okay.
And if RIM and Microsoft can convince developers to build apps for HTML5, and if they can market it, and if they, there's lots of ifs, maybe they could get there. But like I'm thinking of going Android because of these glasses. There's an ecosystem at play in Google and Apple that's very, very strong. I don't know that they're going to get me. So maybe they get somebody in the world that convinced that. But I haven't heard the story. I don't know.
I like what Google's doing. I'm excited by what Google's doing. I think Google has the innovator's dilemma. It's very hard. You get that big to continue to innovate. But I think that the potential is there. I think Apple is probably wisely playing it safe a little bit. They don't need 80%, 90% market share.
No.
They need high margins.
They have $140 billion in cash.
They're doing okay, I think.
Yeah, they're doing fine.
And they've kind of there's been some challenges. They went into China with the iPhone 5, very lukewarm response in China. Of course, they're not on the biggest carriers in China. So I think, to me, I think Android and Google are the player right now, the ones to beat. Let's put it that way.
I would agree.
Except the high end usage is still on Apple. Over and over again, I hear that the monetization's on Apple. The usage is way off the charts on Apple.
No, Apple wants the market. Has the market it wants. That's exactly right.
The high end market.
They have the high end market.
I think
now, are they going to lose it? That's the question.
I don't think they're going to lose that market.
I think if RIM sort of retrenched in a way and went back to its core market, the business market was always the core of RIM, and I think they really got into trouble when they branched out of that. If they could.
Rackspace used to be an entirely BlackBerry company years ago, and now we're a completely iOS and Android company. We're not going back.
Yeah, I wonder.
What are you going to do to get us back?
Yeah,
but there's plenty of businesses and a lot of governments that have not yet abandoned BlackBerry. The U.S. government still runs on BlackBerry.
Can they stop the bleeding? I don't think so, because everybody in the world is bothering every BlackBerry user. What the hell are you doing still on that BlackBerry phone?
Yeah.
I mean, when I meet people on BlackBerry, I go, "What the hell? What the hell? Why are you still on that phone?"
Nerve says the Irish government just went all iOS. They abandoned their BlackBerries.
Yeah.
And did you see what Google did to Windows or to Exchange the other day? They cut off a lot of
deal.
Cut it off.
So that seems an anti-competitive move. They turned off Microsoft Exchange ActiveSync, which Windows phone users needed to sync with their Google Calendar, address book, and mail. It's by the way, iOS, don't panic. The iOS IMAP technique and the CalDAV and CardDAV technique still work. But by turning off ActiveSync, they're actively saying to Windows phone users, "Guess you're going to have to use Microsoft."
Yeah, we don't care about you.
Why would they do that?
Because Microsoft ran those ads about being scroogled.
No, you think that's a response to scroogled?
Yeah.
I think so.
Wow. The tech industry's getting bitchy.
But they have been shutting off a lot of stuff. They've been closing down APIs. They've been kind of
just like
off.
Instagram and
I don't know. I don't know if it's that petty, but there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, why help Microsoft?
They don't. Google does. It's not served by letting Microsoft back in the market. Google is very happy to have Apple as a competitor to play off of, but if it has two competitors that are strong, it gets weaker. And Microsoft is very willing to tie search and other services into the OS, and take away share. And Microsoft is very willing to be aggressive. I think the Google thing is sort of a fun play on that, but I worked at Microsoft. They don't play around.
And yet I don't think that. In fact, it was Eric Schmidt who said, the tech industry assumes it's all like high school, and there's not, that it's all catty. He said, we're grown-ups here. We're all working with each other at the same time as we're not working with each other, and it's, we're competitors, but we're. And so I'm willing to bet there was some technical reason why Google wanted to do that. I cannot imagine that it was to screw Microsoft.
No, I can.
You can?
Yep.
Really?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if it costs you money to support that, you can argue the resources could be better spent elsewhere. And I think that's what big part of what Larry's been doing is saying we need, more wood behind fewer arrows. So if our arrow is helping Microsoft, let's, make it harder.
Screw the arrows. I just need more wood. But that's another story. Let's, did you see this one? Ars Technica. Hackers used a 25 GPU cluster. That's a lot of GPUs. They call it Radeon City. That to crack every single standard Windows password in less than 6 hours. 350 billion guesses per second. Now, this would be no good on a website. This would be no good where you had timeouts. You'd have to have physical access to the Windows system to do this. Nevertheless, it just shows you as we've gotten faster and faster in computing that some of these algorithms for for password protection are not effective.
Nope. Security is going to be a huge problem.
Is that the next thing?
Going forward. It already is. I mean, look at the Wired writer who got hacked.
Matt Honan,
yeah. It's my big fear is somebody's going to hack me. I mean, I've turned on as much as I can and done as much as I can.
Me too, and I know it will happen because we're sitting here. We're sitting ducks.
Yeah.
And if you're a hacker and you want to get attention,
somebody stole my wife's iPhone off of a table in France, and my first thought was, oh, geez, what are they going to get into?
What's on there? Yeah.
There is a note on that, by the way, that Cosmo the God. So there were two guys who did the hack to Honan. There was a guy Matt was talking to, and then he said, and Cosmo the God was the guy who taught me how to do this and made the phone calls to Amazon that got this to happen. He's 15 years old.
Yeah.
He was sentenced in juvenile court in Long Beach, California, pleaded guilty to multiple felonies, got probation, because he's 15. He's a minor. So I hope the guy has learned something. He's on probation until he's 21. He cannot use the internet without prior consent from his parole officer.
The most interesting thing to me, Leo, was that those GPU, brute force kind of exercises, I think, are really irrelevant in a way that Matt Honan got totally screwed. His entire life opened up and everything shut down through social hacking. Right. Most of it was convincing people to let them reset his password. It didn't have anything to do with brute force hacks.
Password strength had nothing to do with it.
Right.
That's true. Although, there are some things. I mean, on my iPhone, I have the home screen lock, so that somebody who steals my phone will have to hack past the password. And they can do that. There's tools to hack past that pretty quickly. And then I also turn on restrictions. So, see, there's a password. So even if you steal my phone, now you have to know my restrictions password, which is different than my home screen password. That'll slow you down a little bit. And then,
but of course, in Honan's case, they got access to his email and his Apple account. They wiped his phone. They never even had to have access to it.
Yeah.
Wiped his iPad, wiped his MacBook.
No, that's true. And then I set do not allow changes on my location services, and I have Find My iPhone. So it slows down again the criminal from changing any of turning off location services. So my phone is always going to be spitting out where it is. So it gives me a shot at getting a cop to see where the phone is. You know, it still won't stop somebody who's really professional, but it'll slow them down.
Or a 15-year-old high school dropout named Cosmo the God.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories, a friend here in Toronto had his laptop stolen. I think it was in New York, and he had a service on it that kept track of the laptop and sent him screenshots and the location, I think it was. He set up a website to track his own laptop.
Oh, wow.
I think it was called Who's Got My Laptop? And so he actually could see what the guy was in, you know, what screens he was on, screenshots of his, you know, IM conversations. It was incredible, all remotely.
Yeah.
A tip of the hat to Claire McCaskill of, I think she's a Missouri senator, U.S. senator, who sent a letter to the FAA saying the flying public is, quote, growing increasingly skeptical of prohibitions on the use of electronic devices like tablets and computers during the beginning and ends of flights. She says she is prepared to pursue legislative solutions if the FAA doesn't act quickly. We may get our Kindles back.
I hope so.
I think that's kind of an unusual step for a elected representative to make. So I just want to give her a little props to Senator McCaskill.
I think Nick Bilton made a great point when he wrote about it, that if you just do a survey of the people around you or the friends that you know and ask them, do they turn their devices off?
Nobody does.
You know, some huge proportion of them don't.
Right.
So if planes have been flying for years with some large proportion of devices not turned off, and I don't think, you know, air accidents have increased by any large amount.
We're going to take a break. Robert Scoble's here. Mathew Ingram. We're talking high tech on TWiT. This is the last TWiT of 2012. Next week we're going to have at least the last news-focused TWiT of 2012. Next week we're going to have our traditional holiday episode, which I always look forward to because it involves lots of drinking and Jonathan Colton, Paul and Storm, and John Hodgman. And I think we get a little special appearance from John Roderick as well on this episode. So that'll be next week's TWiT, the holiday special, because it's, you know, like the eve of Christmas Eve. And then the following week is our traditional best of, which Chad has compiled. Some of the best segments from the past year. Big events like Facebook buying Instagram. So that'll be on December 30th, and then we'll be back here in studio, what is that, January 5th? Something like that. Just a little word of warning. Our show today brought to you by Audible.com. We were talking about The Name of the Wind. That could be your book free. Actually, you get 2 credits. So you could get a number of books. Perhaps you'd be interested in Team of Rivals, the book that inspired the movie Lincoln. Storm of Swords is coming back, Game of Thrones, in March. You got to read those books before you watch the TV show. Wouldn't be right to just watch the show. It'd spoil the whole book for you. There's so much great stuff. Audible is an audiobook store with 100,000 plus titles in every category. There's history, there's science, there's romance, there's kids' books for young adults and children. There's classics, there's sci-fi. There's wonderful stuff here. And it's all read by the best performers, and I think that's really important. Now, if you're going to go see The Hobbit and you haven't read The Hobbit, can I just recommend you read The Hobbit before you see The Hobbit? And the best way to do that would be to listen. The Hobbit is available on Audible.com. There's actually a number of versions, including a very well done, I thought, BBC4 dramatization. But I would read the full unabridged text by J.R.R. Tolkien. The Audible version is read by Rob Inglis, and it's quite good. And you can get it for free. In fact, if you go to audible.com/twit2, you can get 2 credits. You'll be signing up for the Platinum account. That's 2 credits a month. Almost all the books are a single credit, so that means you get 2 books. You don't pay a penny. Cancel at any time. The books are yours to keep at no cost to you. In fact, I have another book. If you go to audible.com/Sanderson, and this is good even for existing members. You don't have to be a new member. You don't even need a credit card. Audible.com/Sanderson. You can download that Brandon Sanderson's great novella, Legion, for free. It's kind of a little holiday gift to you from Audible.com. Do you do audiobooks, Robert, at all?
Once in a while.
I love them.
Generally, I have so much to read and absorb that.
Well, that's why I do audiobooks, because when you're in the car, when you're working out.
I like to listen to Spotify in the car.
Music's good. Nothing wrong with music. But you're right. If I'm a radio station, I'm a little worried because the vast array of content that you're carrying in your pocket really supersedes anything on the radio.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, the fact that you can listen to anything, any book. There's systems now that translate any tweet into an audio that you can listen to, or news articles. I don't get why people would listen to radio anymore.
Audible.com/twit2 to get 2 free books, and audible.com/Sanderson to get that free novella. So much good stuff at audible.com. And I really highly recommend The Name of the Wind. You can be Trey Ratcliffe's friend if you like it.
I already am Trey Ratcliffe's friend.
Has he said that to you? He said, if you don't like this book, I cannot be your friend. I said, what? He said, you'll like it. And he was right. It's really great. And watch Patrick Rothfuss, the author, on NSFW this week. I think Sword and Laser also interviewed him. Rovio is going to do an Angry Birds film. Do we care? No. I don't even want to know. Snapchat. Robert, did you ever use Snapchat?
No.
Would you explain what Snapchat? So the idea of Snapchat is
time limited.
No, you take a picture, and it's
it's time
limited.
Time limited.
Yeah, time limited. I'm sorry, I thought you said unlimited. Oh, you have it. There's the little.
No, I put it up on the website.
Oh, all right. So it's for sexting, right? They say no.
Yeah, they'd rather you didn't mention that, but yes.
Of course it is, because the point is you take a picture and you share it, but nobody can look at it for more than 1 to 10 seconds, and then it disappears forever. And now you might say, well, I could always take a screenshot. It notifies you if somebody takes a screenshot. Yeah, see, they're not sexting. They're just young girls having a fun time with their puppy, and they're not doing anything sexual in any way. Now they've got video. Snapchat's got video.
Yeah.
There were a couple other video providers who did video that sort of automatically disappeared.
This is huge. This is huge, this Snapchat thing.
Well, I had never even heard of it, I don't think. And then someone mentioned that during Thanksgiving, something like 4 or 5 times as many Snapchat photos were sent as Instagram photos. That's a lot. Like Instagram was millions.
Yeah.
That's a single weekend.
I was surprised because I downloaded Snapchat, and both my kids had accounts. Because it looks through your address book to see who you know as a Snapchat user. And my girlfriend had an account, which really worried me. Users have sent over 1 billion snaps on Snapchat. And, of course, the press release goes on to say the majority of those images are funny, lighthearted communications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just raised a ton of dough, too.
They did. According to O'Malley, north of $10 million from Benchmark, $70 million valuation.
I think anytime you see that kind of, those usage numbers from something that lots of people probably have never heard of, that's got to catch your interest. There's something there.
There's something going on. It's the next big thing, maybe.
I like the time limited idea. It's, maybe it's for sexting but just think about other things that, I know there was a move, someone had an email client and you could auto-destruct emails after a certain amount of time. It's an interesting idea.
I have it. But when I share pictures, I want people to be able to keep them.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Vic G just asked, is it available on Android? Yeah, it's Android everywhere. And iOS.
Yeah.
Is Vic G Vic Gundotra?
No, if only.
Oh. All right.
But I have to say, and Vic, if it is you and you're watching, I've been pretty negative about Google Plus, but I think with the community features, the new apps, boy, the apps on Android and iPhone are spectacular.
Apps are pretty good.
I love them.
I think Google Plus might have might be coming back. Do you use it, Robert? You're a Facebook guy. Oh, you do use it.
I just opened a community over in Google Plus for people who created companies, and it already has 6,000 users.
Yeah.
So it's pretty hot, and I have 3 million followers there. So it's
and the apps are gorgeous. I just think they've been
very much so. I really like the new apps. They got me to use Google Plus a lot more in the last week.
Yeah, they're well done.
Yeah. Good. I want Google Plus to do well. I do. I just felt like nobody I knew was using it.
Here's my community, 6,000 people.
Good. What's it called?
Building a company.
Ah, cool. We have a This Is TWiT official TWiT community. There's also unofficial communities. All the shows have communities now, I think, started by the hosts or producers. And the Tech Guy has a community called Team Tech Guy, I think.
I know it's really popular with photographers. I mean, Trey and guys like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's because the images look really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also a Twitter.
In fact, let's see. The photo community has 22,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get it.
I wonder, though, do you think the communities is a response to, because some of the criticism was, well, circles are too hard, you know, and it's too complicated to add people to things. Do you think the communities is a sort of step back from that?
I think it's a feature that it needed to be added, and it makes it much more compelling. I think people will still use circles. You know, Guy Kawasaki was on Triangulation this week, and he said, you know, he's a Google Plus fanatic, even wrote a book about it. He said his suggestion was that you create your community not public but private first, because the negative of a public community is everything you post on the community gets shared out to your circles as well. And so that creates a lot of noise. So
well, and for the moderator, I'm getting about 20 to 50 spam messages a day in my community.
I had to turn off notifications.
Yeah, I don't use notifications anyways, but I'm getting a lot of inbound. Now, what's interesting is Google Plus is blocking most of those messages from my community.
Job. Yeah.
But for the moderator, I still have to go through and say, no, remove that one, and let that one through to the community. And so it's caused a little bit of work on my behalf. But that was to be expected. But these things grew pretty quickly. I mean, in a week, I got 6,000 users in one building.
Yeah.
And I wonder if some companies, like even people like yourself or smaller companies, maybe they'll be looking to do something with a Google community instead of their Facebook page.
I don't think so. I have almost 2,200 startups in one list on Facebook, and the behavior on Facebook is very different than this community thing. Facebook also has groups that are very similar to these communities. Right. So, no,
I don't think most people use them.
Do they? Here and there. You would be shocked with 1 billion users, even if nobody uses it.
True,
There's, there's some like some of the lists I'm on have 100,000 users.
Wow.
And supposedly nobody uses lists.
Right.
So.
Right. Dell gets out of the smartphone business.
No surprise.
No surprise.
Well, on Tech Meme right now, it says Dell is making a deal with Microsoft
to do a Microsoft Windows phone.
Let's see.
They dropped Android. Maybe they didn't get out of the business. They just decided to move. That would be interesting.
I don't see it now. Where did it disappear to?
It was imaginary. I'm looking too. I don't see it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, actually, that would make sense. Probably Dell's a big Windows company, right? Makes more sense than Android, probably.
It makes sense that they don't try to get into the smartphone business, but I don't know. I think they'll try to come at it again.
The FCC is trying to get iMessage and other texting services to allow text to 911. Is this a good idea? Help me from a text message.
Why not?
I guess it's how kids communicate. It's how people communicate going forward. Over the top internet messaging services like iMessage should let users send emergency texts to 911. You can actually put a GPS pin in it, can't you? So it might actually be a really good way to let people know where you are. And
well, here's a use case that the CEO of Alohar told me. They make the app called Place Me. They can tell whether you were in a car wreck or not because your phone stops.
Right.
Your accelerometer knows that.
Right.
And if you don't move, and it can call you, and if you don't answer, it can report to the authorities that, hey, there's a car wreck.
Is that a product? That's great. Is that a startup?
Well, Alohar is building a system that it could enable this. This could be a use case that happens in the future.
Right.
But they can tell your
OnStar
phone.
Can do that too.
OnStar does it, but OnStar's sensors are built into the car. We're talking about the sensors in the cell phone.
That's really interesting.
And Oakley said the same thing. Oakley said, well, our ski goggles know you're going 20 miles an hour and you hit a tree and you're not moving. We can call the ski patrol, right? They haven't implemented that yet, but they said that's a potential future thing of these new systems.
I do. If you're deaf or if you can't speak, the idea of a text 911 is actually a great idea. So I hope they do that.
By the way, somebody just posted that there was a snow alert up in Seattle that all iPhone users got sent. And they didn't realize that the 911 system is hooked into the iPhone
It is.
system.
In fact, if you look at your settings, you'll see that it's part of the settings. It's national. There's a national alert system that the federal government mandated. I think people don't commonly know that. But if there were a national emergency, or obviously if there's a local snow emergency, the government officials can use your phone and send you a message.
It's on Android too.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I just don't remember where. Where is it in the
Great idea.
I forget.
Way better than just putting it on the radio.
But it did wake me up at 5 a.m. when we were having flash flood warnings.
I think that's just your weather program. No,
I don't have a weather program installed.
Oh my!
And it was definitely on the OS level because there was it went past my lock screen to let me dismiss it.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah. Lou MM, who is a Microsofter, says he just got an alert in his Windows Phone 8 and Android in Redmond about the snow. Very interesting. I think we're going to wrap this sucker up. Any great startups, Robert, you're excited about? Anything you want to...
Oh, yeah. We got to talk about that.
Yeah, what?
We did promise to.
I did.
I've been, for the last week and a half, I've been playing with this thing called Prismatic, and they just got $15 million, so they're pretty good.
One of my favorites.
Brad Cross's company. Brad is a Googler.
Yeah. It's 6 people, and they built an algorithm, and they learn what kind of news you like as you use it, and you can also program it a little bit. Like, I put Giga Ohm and social media and Twitter in there, and it just finds really great news. Very little noise, if any at all.
This is a huge category. There's a lot of these social news enterprises.
Yeah, there's Wavy, there's Flipboard, there's Nuzzle, there's a whole bunch of. But Prismatic got right to the top of my feed. What else?
By the way, speaking of that, there is a story I forgot to mention. Both The Guardian and The Wall Street Journal have pulled their social reader from Facebook.
Yep.
They don't like it that Facebook is controlling, and I think it has to do with the new algorithm, the news algorithm.
It does. It does. I actually wrote about that because the guy who wrote the Guardian blog post about why they decided to do it, they kind of hinted some of it was between the lines, but he specifically mentioned that now if you interact with things on their website, the way you share things or don't share things doesn't determine what you see. And that's a clear reference to the tweaking of the Facebook algorithm so that if people don't share things, they stop showing up. And I think they were probably noticing that. Yeah, news, they really want the news to be a little bit more rigorous. I've been seeing a lot fewer news items over on this ticker over on the right side of Facebook. I mean, here's one from the BBC, but very few reading behavior. There's one from the Guardian. I did really like the social reader, but I did too. But I didn't. You didn't? I like it for music a lot because I find a lot of cool music, and it's fun to know, Leo Laporte's listening to Skrillex or something like that.
Right.
You mean the ticker? You like the ticker?
Well, I love the ticker. I wish the ticker was on all the mobile apps. I'll be at Facebook tomorrow, and I'll ask them why they haven't brought the ticker over into the mobile apps yet. But for news, it's sort of weird because a lot of stuff that we read is, it's guilty pleasure kind of stuff, and it's like I really don't need to know that you're reading some article, about some sexual thing
I've
or
been
something.
kind of embarrassed by a few, a few of the things. So if you still like the Social Reader, by the way, go to socialreader.com, and that's what the Post is doing now. They're running their own website. So that
it's interesting that they've decided to set up their own website to do it. The Guardian has just basically brought things back into their regular website.
Yeah. But I'm with you. The friction-free sharing is a double-edged sword.
Definitely.
Yeah.
and unfortunately, I often click on the guilty pleasure stories. Kim
Everybody
Kardashian's.
Everybody does.
By the way, Paul McCord over on Google Plus told me this is what the service that's pushing through those weather alerts
from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
And
very interesting.
Yeah, they're the ones who are pushing through the snow alerts in Seattle right now.
Wow.
So.
Wow. By the way, I do listen to Skrillex.
I do too. By the way,
Nothing like dubstep, baby.
I'm more of a Dead Mouse kind of guy.
I like Dead Mouse. Nothing wrong with him.
He's Canadian.
Is he? I didn't know that.
He is.
Yeah.
All the secret Canadians.
So the social news, that's hot. What else you like?
I like that light app that I showed earlier. I still play with that a little bit. I haven't seen anything that's just totally mind-blowing lately.
Ingress is fun. You got to try playing Ingress.
Yeah, Ingress is one that I need to get into. I've been traveling a lot. The new YouTube app is pretty good. My kids
I like the new YouTube app because it uses the new YouTube interface on the web on the app, and I think it's a pretty good. I kind of at first I was a little skeptical of the new YouTube interface, YouTube.com, but we had Lamar Wilson on This Week in Google, and he explained kind of what the thinking was. They had briefed him on it, and I like it. It improves browsing. It brings your subscriptions forward, which is nice. I think actually they've made some good moves here on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice and clean.
I haven't gotten too many apps that have been just totally, oh my God, I have to, get on Leo's show and talk about them lately. So please do send me some. But the light app I like, and the Prismatic certainly has gotten to the top of my news feed, which is pretty hard to do.
I just don't understand why great YouTube content like this doesn't surface better. This is Josh Windish, my private dancer.
Yeah.
That's some good work.
You see, I really think we need to get some things for the editors to do around here because there's an awful lot of this going on lately.
That's gold.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. The last show of the year. I love doing this show, and I'm so glad that I have the privilege to do it and get great people like Mathew Ingram from GigaOM on. And
love GigaOM. Saw him in Paris.
Say hi to Ohm. He doesn't want to be on the show anymore, but at least we can get Mathew on. And also to Robert Scoble, the Scobleizer. Always a pleasure. One of my oldest friends in the biz. Known him for how long? 20 years now.
I don't know, about 94, 95, somewhere in that range.
I think 92. I think our 20th anniversary has come.
Yay.
Wow, you should get him something.
I should. What is the 20th anniversary? Probably wood.
I don't know.
I'll get more wood for your arrows. How about that? Thank you, Robert.
Give me an Amazon gift card.
Thanks, Leo.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. TWiT is
Thanks,
a Sunday afternoon production, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern time. That's 2400 UTC. Is it 2400 now? Yeah, I think it's midnight Eastern. Well, let's see. It's 12 plus 3 is 15 plus 2300 UTC, I think, something like that.
20th is China. You should get him some China.
Yeah, China. I'm going to give you a mug. How about I send him a TWiT mug?
I already have one of those.
Oh, we got some new ones.
Oh,
yeah.
I'll take a new one.
I'll send him a new TWiT mug. How about that?
I'll use it on my show.
For our anniversary. Thank you, Robert. What is your show?
Building43.com.
Everybody should go there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Robert.
Thanks.
We thank you for being here. Please tune in live if you can. If you can't, we make on-demand audio and video available after the fact at twit.tv. And more importantly, you can subscribe on iTunes and everywhere better podcasts are aggregated. Don't forget, I'm going to be in Vegas for a very special occasion. The New Media Expo is coming up January. I think it's 6th through 8th. It's good. I should have the dates. If you go to inside.twit.tv, you could find out more. And I think we have a coupon, so you could save 20% when you're registering. So inside.twit.tv, our Twit blog, we have information on Blog World, the New Media Expo. I'm going to be at a meet and greet. I've got a great fireside chat with Chris Hardwick of The Nerdist. I thought it'd be really interesting to talk about the state of podcasting and the 8th Annual Podcast Awards. And then we'll be at CES, the next few days, bringing you CES coverage. Stay tuned for that. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Don't forget our holiday episode next week. It's going to be fun. Another Twit is in the can.